Got it, Eamon. Thank you so much. Sets us up perfectly for our next discussion. Cue the clash. Should we stay or should we go when it comes to the climate accord? Are we better off out of it? Joining us to debate the impact of withdrawal is Dan Kanninen with the Smoot Tools Group and former White House liaison at the EPA. Also Ronald Bailey. He's the science correspondent at Reason magazine. Mr. Kanninen, I'm going to start with you. What would happen if Donald Trump decided we were not going to commit to the Paris Accord on climate change?
I think it's a real disaster for us, not just in terms of climate change accountability and our economy here domestically, but for global leadership. We'd be abdicating our role on the global stage. We'd be telling our allies that they can't take us seriously. We already know that Angela Merkel has said just this past week that before this announcement or news that might be coming, that she felt that the U.S. was a less reliable partner than it had been in the past. This really sends a terrible signal for us in terms of international influence, in terms of growing our clean energy economy, and certainly has disastrous consequences, if he does this, for our ability to act on climate.
Ronald, is it as disastrous? And let's make it clear to the audience, you are not a climate change denier, as some people describe that side of the aisle or that positioning. You believe it's a problem, but do you think that the Paris Accord and top-down agreements at the government level are the best way to solve climate change? Are there better ways to do it?
I think there is a better way, and if I were advising the president, what I would do is submit the Paris Climate Change Agreement to the Senate for ratification. After all the other countries of the world who are signatories to the pact have gone through their formal processes, instead of having an executive agreement of the sort that Obama decided to go forward with. So that's what I would do. Whether he would recommend ratification or not, that would be up to him. The other way to solve the problem, I would suggest, is to rev up the economy as rapidly as possible and so that we can generate the wealth and the new technologies that would handle the problem of climate change. For example, we get rid of the regulations that are slowing down the progress on fourth generation safe nuclear power plants, for example, or get rid of regulations that are slowing down the adoption of self-driving automobiles that would be electric powered. These kinds of things would address and cut the carbon dioxide that is causing the problem.
Ronald, Dan says it would be a disaster, and people who say that climate change is a major problem say it is an existential threat. I mean, would it be a disaster if the president pulled out?
I don't think it would be a disaster. Obviously, the question is, what other policies would we be adopting to probably domestically handle the problem? And I don't think necessarily a disaster. Let's go back to the earlier treaty. The Kyoto Protocol, which was an earlier treaty that the U.S. refused to join, was really an abject failure, ultimately. The countries that did not keep their promises, Canada, for example, Russia and Japan, just withdrew, nothing happened, and it simply didn't work. The Paris Climate Accord could easily turn into that as well. So what we should be doing is, as I say, concentrating on technology and economic growth to handle the problem.
Dan?
Well, there are two countries not joining this agreement, Syria and Nicaragua. This is not Kyoto. This is a very strong, comprehensive agreement, but that does rely on the willingness of major emitters to stay at the table and stay engaged. If we pull out, yes, we really do threaten the health of this agreement. If we stay in, there's a good chance we can make it work. But if we do pull out, what we're really doing, beyond the fact that we're abdicating our leadership on the global stage and threatening action on is we are undercutting ourselves.
What about the
economic
argument, though,
engine.
that economic growth actually
I was about to make that exact
the
argument. There are 17% faster growth in the solar industry than the rest of the economy. There are 650,000 renewable jobs, 75,000 in coal. You all know, you've been watching this, coal stocks, coal futures have been going down for more than a decade because of the cheap price of natural gas. That's happening. We have a chance to be the leader on the global stage to create renewable jobs here. But natural gas is precisely
Ronald's point, right? Natural gas and fracking is happening because of innovation, despite attempts by the Obama administration to slow it down, right? I mean, I think that is exactly, Ron, I see you nodding your head.
Absolutely correct on that as well. And if we want to look at a country that's tried to do this kind of renewable energy thing, let's look at what happened to Germany. The electricity prices in the last decade, when they've spent over $100 billion on trying to move to solar power, for example, have tripled over that period of time. Electricity is being considered a luxury item now in Germany, and we certainly wouldn't want that to happen in this country.
All right, gentlemen, thanks so much. Ron Bailey and also Dan Kanninen. We wait to see what exactly the White House is going to do on this issue.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Here's what's coming up.